Hello and welcome back to Rock Cycle. Hope you're having a good day. Now, I'm sure you are well aware by now that the coronavirus has completely destroyed the live music industry. And while that does mean, unfortunately, fans like you and me don't get to go to these live shows and enjoy these concerts and festivals that we love so much, it's also very important to remember this is destroying people's livelihoods. And not only the big musicians and artists that we easily think about it, there's lots of people behind the scenes that are important as well, such as lighting technicians, sound technicians, even the people that work at the bars or security guards. So what's the post-coronavirus world of live music going to look like? Let's get into it. Now, first of all, I am going to very quickly and annoyingly say, please feel free to consider following me on Twitter. It's probably the social media that I am the most active on, but I always forget to mention it in these videos, so I thought I'd do it at the beginning to get it out of the way, and that way I won't forget. Okay, self-promotion over. So this is a video topic I've been thinking about doing for quite a while now, but to be honest, we haven't really had much of an idea at all about what is going to happen in the future. There's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of variables. And while I cannot promise you that I know or anyone knows for sure right now, I think we're starting to get a bit of a better idea about what the future of live music is going to be. So I now feel this is the time that I can make a bit more of an accurate and realistic video on this topic about the future. So as I've said in a couple of past videos, some experts on the coronavirus are predicting we're not going to have any concerts or festivals until autumn and winter 2021. Now, I have seen some people debating that and saying potentially in early 2021 if there are social distancing rules put into place in these concerts. And to be entirely honest, we don't exactly know about the time frame. It's very variable, but for the most part it looks like this summer is a complete write-off for at least most of us. And while that is very unfortunate, I think it does make sense. Even though I completely love concerts, they are extremely unhygienic. You're in very close quarters with a lot of people and you're always moving around, bumping into new people, so it's perfect conditions for disease to spread about. So unfortunately, it does make sense that it looks like concerts and festivals are going to be one of the very last things that are allowed to return to normal. But saying all that, unfortunately it seems there's a bit of a difference in reality between what is safe and common sense and what is legal. Now, I'm just saying that's something to consider. I'm not going to get too into the details of that, but I'm sure you're all aware. But I think I'm just going to try and avoid too much of the politics in this video, mostly because when I do get into politics too much, people tend to dislike a bit more and I get mean comments that haunt me to this day. But anyway, at the very least, it seems for most of us, summer is a complete write-off. It seems some promoters are still hoping to possibly put on concerts in autumn and winter, but here in the UK at least, it looks like festivals aren't planning on returning until the summer, because with our shitty weather, there's not much chance of putting on a big outdoor concert in December. But oh, America, you're a very different country, aren't you? You always have to do your own thing. So while for most of the world, concerts and festivals aren't going to even be legally allowed for the next few months at the very least, we've seen a few states in America allowing concerts to restart and reopen. At the time of recording, I don't think any of these have actually gone ahead, but there's plans for a few within the next couple of days, so potentially those would have happened by the time this video goes up, but fingers crossed I'll edit it quickly. Now, from what I've seen at least, it doesn't look like there's going to be any major concerts. There's no Justin Bieber's, Ariana Grande's or Coldplay putting on shows. It's usually much smaller artists. And well, what are these concerts going to be like? The Event Safety Alliance has published some guidelines for these concerts that are resuming in America, and it looks like similar guidelines will be adapted in the rest of the world when concerts are re-allowed to open here. Now, these aren't legally enforceable guidelines, but it seems like, from what I've seen at least for the concerts going ahead, that the majority are pretty much following these guidelines. The Event Safety Alliance is a non-profit organisation that made these guidelines by contacting over 300 event promoters, as well as coronavirus experts, medics, Ticketmaster and various other people involved with organising concerts and festivals. If I remember, and that's a big if, I'll put a link down in the description for it, but let's just go over some of the main points of it. First of all, and probably pretty obviously, people have to stand far apart. Now, from what I've seen for the concerts going ahead, there don't seem to be any standing concerts, they seem to all be seating. That way people can have allocated seats and it's easy to keep people far apart. Another part of the guidelines is to wash your hands every half hour. Now, I don't really think from what I've seen that this rule is being enforced at many concerts. It does seem rather impractical, like would we have to stop the show halfway through like a intermission at a theatre so we could all go off and wash our hands and then come back? There's also guidance on temperature screening before coming into the concert as well as staggered queues. That all makes sense to me. And then also no mosh pitting and no crowd surfing. And Chris Fronzak added to this, he's the singer of Attila for people who don't know him, and he also owns a record label, so he's probably got a bit more insider knowledge than most of us do. And importantly, he unfortunately points out that because of the restricted number of tickets that can be sold and all the extra precautions that festivals and concerts and all that have to put in before you can go into the venues, that's going to see a massive rise in ticket prices. Since they're selling only about a tenth of the usual number of tickets, they're going to have to really put the prices up to even make these tours slightly profitable or even break even. So all of that doesn't really look that enticing to me personally. I think I would be tempted to go to one or two of these social distancing concerts when we're allowed them here in the UK, just for the experience and just to see what it's like, and partly because I'm missing live music so much. This is actually the longest I've been without seeing a live band since I was about 16 years old. I have absolutely no life outside of music. But for me, and I'm sure for some of you too, the crowd is very important for a good live show. There's numerous times I've gone to go see one of my favourite bands. They've been amazing, they performed great, but the crowd's been completely dead. Like, everyone's standing still, no one's singing, no one's jumping about, and no one's really having fun. That's just sort of really led to me not having a fun experience at the concert, no matter how good the band were. And that looks like that's what all concerts are going to be in the future, at least while coronavirus is going on. So I don't think I'll be that keen to go to that many, especially if I'm having to pay like 10 times the normal price. So I'm going to add a poll up here. I'll be interested to see, would you still go to concerts like this, or would you just save your money? Now, the time limit on these guidelines is a bit unsure. It's probably most likely going to continue until we have a widespread vaccine. Hopefully we don't get too many Karens and their magic healing crystals trying to fight it off. Just get the vaccine, then it can be safe and we can go back to normality. But there may also become a point where the economic risks outweigh the health and life risks. And it does sound really fucked to say out loud that money could be more important than health and life, but I think it's something that we all kind of consider without really realising it. Even before Corona, concerts and festivals have always spread diseases about, and I think it is likely, although you can't really prove it, that there have been numerous people that have died because they've been at a concert or someone their friends with have been to a concert, they've caught a disease while pushing about in this crowd, and for them, unfortunately, maybe they were a vulnerable person and they caught it and died. So I think it is a risk we've all been taking, whether we've realised it or not, always at concerts, and it's going to come to a point like that where we think it's a safe level to go despite some risk to these concerts. Also going to have another poll up here now, so please click on it because I'm very curious to see, would you go to a concert before or after there's a vaccine? So we are seeing quite a few concerts that are being cancelled, but we're also seeing quite a lot that are being postponed. But it also looks like some of them were a bit too optimistic with their postponing, and maybe they only put it to like around the time of the summer they were hoping to put a concert on, so they might be getting postponed again. But on the whole, it looks like concerts are going to stay the same, just at a later date and time. But something that's a bit different for festivals is the lineup. Now, we're seeing lots of festivals like Transmit Festival and Mad Cool that are trying to keep the exact same lineup for next year, or at least more or less the exact same lineup. And I think the main reason for them doing this, partly because it's all good acts, and also partly so people that have bought a ticket aren't asking for a refund, so they can still see the acts that they want to see. So hopefully that will avoid putting the festival in bankruptcy. While this may be a good idea short term economically for the festival, I personally think this might be a bit of a bad idea economically when you look at the long term and when it actually gets to next year. Since Reading and Leeds were cancelled, on that day I put some polls up on my Twitter and on the Reading subreddit seeing if people would want the same or different lineup next year, and it seems the vast majority of people wanted a different lineup. Now, I do think that is a big part thanks to a lot of people thinking the Reading and Leeds lineup this year was just a little bit shit, to be honest. I personally didn't think it was that bad, and there's quite a few acts I'm gutted I'm not going to be able to see, but I think that did influence a lot of people's votes. But I think it could be very dangerous having a very similar lineup again next year. Especially in terms of headliners, like these are very big and very popular acts, but they usually headline around the time they release an album because that's when they're biggest and that's when they're hottest. And while I'm sure pretty much every festival headliner act will still be popular this time next year, I don't think they're going to be as popular because they won't have released music for a while, so they're not going to be that hot anymore, and people will have forgotten about them a bit and people will have moved on. Like, for example, if Reading and Leeds have the same headliners next year, none of them will have put out new music for almost 3 years. So I don't think that's going to be very exciting for people to buy a new ticket if they're not already going. And always with festivals we get some very surprise new popular acts. I'm sure there's going to be someone I really want to see at multiple festivals in the summer in 2021, but I don't even know their name right now, and I'm sure that's going to be true for you too. So again, for an example, looking at the Reading and Leeds lineup for this summer, some of the most popular names on that lineup were Gary Cinnamon, Sam Fender and AJ Tracey. But then if you look at how big they were, like only about a year ago, they were a fraction of their size right now, and I don't think I'd heard of any of them besides AJ Tracey at this point. So yeah, I reckon there's a good chance by the summer of 2021 there's going to be loads of big new artists that we're really excited to go see and we want to see at festivals, but then there's going to be no space to have them on these lineups. So how every festival handles that is going to be different, but I really hope they do sort of have a bit of a compromise, have some of those big popular acts from this year's lineup, also have some of the few new exciting acts that we're going to want to see by then. But anyway, what is going on in the meantime in the world of live music? We have seen some really interesting innovations going on, which I think is helping to keep live music alive, even if it is in a bit of a different form. Such as the Travis Scott concert on Facebook. As cringy as it sounds, I think that was actually pretty cool and quite interesting thing to do. We've had many online concerts done by bands. We even had the entire festival of 5 for 4 done online. And we've even had drive-in concerts going on in Germany and some other parts of Europe. Now I do think unfortunately these things will never be quite as good as an actual live concert experience. And I do recommend you check some of these things out, because it's a great way to support artists and the people that put in all the work behind the scenes, and you can do all of that without leaving your house. So overall it does look like it will be a rough few years for live music, but hopefully eventually we'll be able to return to normality and all be able to have some good fun again. So I think that's pretty much it. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing and all the usual YouTube shit, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.